Hello, Lions fans. I'm getting a bad feeling. I hope it's just in my head, and I hope the Lions can turn things around. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's been something strange in the air surrounding the Detroit Lions this offseason. If you're a fan, you felt it, you've read it, you've heard it, and most importantly, you're wondering what the hell is going on. After 2 consecutive seasons where Detroit was the darling of the NFL, where the media practically went out of their way to crown Dan Campbell and the Lions as the league's rising stars, we're suddenly faced with a wall of skepticism. If you want to see the Detroit Lions turn things around, hit that like button hard. If possible, comment below, what would you do differently to help the Lions if you were on Brad Holmes' team? We've gone from the team everyone was excited about to the team everyone's now doubting. Suddenly, we're not a lock to win the division. Suddenly, people aren't so sure we'll even make the playoffs. And what's even more baffling, the coach who flipped this franchise around in record time, Dan Campbell, is barely cracking the top 10 in head coach rankings. Ranked 9th? Really? Let's unpack the madness. Every metric that's grounded in reality, in facts, in numbers, those show Dan Campbell as one of the best in the business. The man inherited a franchise that was an absolute disaster. You want to talk about starting from rock bottom? Try starting your first season with a team that went 3-13-1. Yet from that pit, he's turned things around in dramatic fashion. Since week 9 of the 2022 season, the Detroit Lions have won 35 of their last 44 regular season games. That is not a fluke. That's not luck. That's coaching. That's leadership. But here's where things get real. Campbell's win percentage, when you strip out the garbage he inherited, is a staggering .706. That's better than every single returning head coach in the league. Let me repeat that. Dan Campbell, if you look at what he's done post-rebuild, has the best win percentage of any returning head coach. So why does he sit at number 9 on these rankings? That's where the disrespect really starts to cut deep. Let's look at who's ahead of him. Andy Reid? No argument there. John Harbaugh? Fine, he's earned his stripes. But Sean Payton at number 2? He's only just returned to coaching. Jim Harbaugh, Dan's own former mentor, is back in the NFL for 1 year and he's already ranked above him? Mike Tomlin, who hasn't won a playoff game since 2016, is still sitting comfortably above? Come on, what are we doing? And then the excuses start rolling in. Oh, but the Lions are talented, as if Dan Campbell had nothing to do with building that talent into a winning football team, as if Jared Goff resurrected himself, as if the offensive line coached itself into dominance, as if the Lions' defensive playmakers, guys like Aiden Hutchinson, Brian Branch, and Kirby Joseph, just randomly turned into elite performers with no help from their coaching environment. Let's get one thing straight. Players are drafted into the NFL every single year who never pan out. Why? Because talent without coaching is a wasted asset. Campbell didn't just get lucky. He's created a culture where talent thrives. He's taken the pieces and molded them into a team that's not just playing hard, they're winning. But maybe the loudest criticism coming this offseason is about the departure of both coordinators, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. Suddenly, the story is that Campbell was just the figurehead, that Johnson was the real genius behind the offense, and Glenn the reason the defense showed flashes. But the players don't see it that way. Just go back to what Aiden Hutchinson said earlier this year. Dan Campbell is the anchor. Losing coaches happens when you win, but what matters is keeping the guy who sets the tone. That's Dan. Johnson himself turned down a head coaching job in Washington, one with a top draft pick and a proven GM, because he knew he wasn't ready. He wanted more time under Dan Campbell. That's respect. That's growth. That's a coach building coaches, not just game plans. So let me ask you, Lions fans, why the disrespect? Why is Dan Campbell being treated like he's just along for the ride, instead of the man driving the ship? This offseason has made one thing clearer than ever. If you're waiting for national media to give this team the respect it's earned, you'll be waiting a long time. But inside this fan base, we know the truth. And now I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts below. Why do you think Dan Campbell isn't getting the love he deserves? What do you make of the way national analysts are talking about the Lions heading into 2025? Let's get loud. Let's get real. Because this team is for real, and the league better get ready. And here's where things start getting even more intense, because the national narrative hasn't just missed the mark on Dan Campbell. It's completely overlooked the transformation happening inside Allen Park. This isn't just about one coach or one ranking. It's about the foundational shift that's taken place in the Detroit Lions organization, and how media voices are still clinging to an outdated image of what this team used to be. Think about it. When Dan Campbell took over in 2021, this team had no identity. The culture was broken. Fans were beaten down by years, decades, of mediocrity and disappointment. And then, Piece by piece, Campbell rebuilt it all. He didn't just install a new playbook, he installed belief. From the front office to the practice field to every single player in that locker room, there's a different attitude now. And yet, somehow, someway, people are still stuck in the past. They say, well, now that Ben Johnson's gone, the offense won't be the same. Or without Aaron Glenn, the defense will crumble. But that perspective shows how little credit Dan Campbell is getting for assembling this team, for guiding its rise, for cultivating the kind of environment that makes guys like Johnson and Glenn successful in the first place. When was the last time you saw a coordinator turn down a head coaching gig because they wanted to keep learning from the guy at the top? That doesn't happen in this league, not unless there's something really special going on. And that's exactly what we have with Campbell. His leadership is magnetic, it's clear, it's consistent, and it's working. And let's talk about the players for a second. Aiden Hutchinson didn't just voice support for Campbell, he emphatically pointed to him as the key to continuity. He said it plainly, it doesn't matter who the new coordinators are, as long as Campbell is still steering the ship. That kind of loyalty, that kind of faith, doesn't come from empty slogans. It comes from respect earned in the trenches, from battles fought together, from turning doubters into believers. But it's not just Hutchinson. Across the board, you see the impact Campbell has made. Jared Goff went from being cast off by the Rams to leading one of the top offenses in football. The offensive line is one of the best in the league. Young talents like Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph are emerging as serious difference makers. These aren't isolated stories. They're symptoms of a system that's working from the top down. And yet, here we are, still having to defend our coach, still having to remind people that this team is not a fluke, that the 2023 season wasn't some lucky run, that our 12-5 campaign wasn't just a byproduct of weak competition. This team is built to last. It's built to compete, and it's built to win. But maybe what's most frustrating is how quickly the media forgets. One bad quarter, one tough game, one change on the coaching staff, and suddenly they're writing obituaries for a team that's still ascending, still learning, still hungry, as if a great coach doesn't know how to adapt. As if Campbell hasn't already proven he can weather the storm. Look at the record again. Since cleaning out the wreckage he inherited, Campbell is 36-15. That's elite. That's not something you brush aside with a lazy ranking. That's not ninth best. That's not good enough. That's elite territory. And frankly, it's time people started acknowledging that. Because here's what the critics don't get. This isn't just a hot streak. This is the beginning of something bigger. A movement, a cultural shift, a declaration that Detroit is no longer the league's punching bag. It's a contender. Not because we say so, but because we've earned it. And let's not forget, this offseason, with all its changes, isn't a sign of weakness. It's a rite of passage. Great teams lose assistants. Great teams reload. Great teams move forward. And that's exactly what the Lions are doing. Every player knows it. Every coach knows it. And every true fan knows it. So when Dan Campbell gets ranked behind coaches who haven't sniffed playoff relevance in years, or ones just getting started again, it's not just inaccurate. It's disrespectful. This team isn't going anywhere. And neither is Dan Campbell. Lions fans, if you're with me, if you believe in what's happening in Detroit, now is the time to raise your voice. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe, and drop a comment below. Go Lions, nothing's going to stop us. Because we've got more breaking news, more updates, and more reasons to believe coming your way right here. Stay locked in, stay fired up, and as always, one pride.